In the best MMA fights in the world, young champions are quickly becoming the norm. To become a fighter, you have to be at least 18 years old, and for championships, the requirements are between 21 and 34. But even though they're young, these fighters were brave enough to step into the 8-sided ring and change into men right before us. In this video, we'll talk about some of the youngest fighters in the championship's history. First off, Muhammad Mokaev. Mokaev was 21 and a great fighter when he joined the UFC in 2021. Even before he became a professional, people called him the Punisher, and they were right to do so because of how well he did as a rookie. Martial artist, 5 feet 9 inches tall and weighs 135 pounds. He won the MMA Junior World Championship twice as an amateur and is also the IMMAF Bantamweight Junior European and World Champion. In Junior MMA, he had 23 wins and no losses in a row, the longest active unbeaten streak. The kid from Manchester, England is on track to become as good as some of the best fighters who have ever stepped into the cage. Mokaev and his family fled from Dagestan to England when he was 12 years old. When the fighter reached, he decided he wanted to become a wrestler and said he wanted to be the best he could be. In 2013, he became a member of the Manchester Wrestling Club and ultimately became the British Junior Champion a year later. Up next, Michael McDonald. Michael McDonald's a bantamweight fighter from California who is 5 feet 8 inches tall and weighs 135 pounds. Now that he's 30, he no longer participates. But if we look at how rough the sport is, then a 9-year career should be counted as 19 in terms of how it affects your body. He's got a background in both kickboxing and Brazilian jiu-jitsu, which gave him a significant advantage over other fighters. He's been in 23 fights and won 19 of them in martial arts. McDonald started playing as an amateur when he was 14 and turned pro when he was only 16, turning into a real expert who knows how to fight. He's also got 2 brothers who are also skilled in battle. His oldest brother, Justin Smitley, has a contract with Bellator MMA, followed by Max Holloway. Max Holloway is a featherweight fighter from Hawaii. He's 5 feet 11 inches tall and weighs 145 pounds. When he was only 20, he was welcomed into the world of UFC. He fought at featherweight and lightweight. In June 2017, he beat Jose Aldo to win the featherweight title. Proving his fighting prowess wasn't a fluke, he defended that title 3 times. In 2021, when he was 30 years old and had been fighting for 10 years, he was number 1 in the UFC featherweight division. He's also ranked number 7 in the UFC's pound-for-pound list for men. So far, he's had 29 fights in martial arts and has won 23 of them. In 2012, when Ricardo Lamas got hurt and had to be replaced at UFC 143 by a younger fighter, he was the youngest fighter on the UFC roster. Dustin Poirier beat him in his first fight. He showed a real warrior spirit by not letting this rough start stop him from becoming one of the best. Moving on to Nick Diaz. Nick Diaz is a middleweight powerhouse from Stockton, California. He's 6 feet 1 inches tall and weighs 185 pounds. He's also the older brother of well-known UFC fighter Nate Diaz. The blood-related duo's done much for the UFC by making the sport popular when it was just starting. In 2001, right after he turned 18, Nick went into business for himself. After he beat Mike Wick at the IFC Warriors Challenge, he had a big party. We love Diaz because he makes phrases like wolf tickets popular, and because he goes back and forth between being assertive and dominant in the cage, plus doing crazy things that no one else could do. Next up is Robbie Lawler. Robbie Lawler is the welterweight champion from Florida. He's 5 foot 11 inches tall and weighs 185 pounds. Lawler's always liked to fight since he was a child. He started Taekwondo when he was 8 years old. As a wrestler at his Iowa high school, Bettendorf, he was named All-State. His first professional fight went off without a hitch. He fought for the first time as a pro in 2001 and won his first 4 fights by TKO or KO. He's now retired after a new career with 29 wins and 15 losses, but he's managed to win a lot of awards. At UFC 37, he faced Aaron Riley, who'd been in the UFC before. All of the judges agreed that Lawler had won the fight. The following month, he fought Steve Berger at UFC 37.5 and won by TKO. He's also the only fighter to have won 3 straight Fight of the Year awards from Sherdog in MMA fighting and is known for his aggressive fighting style. Lawler used to be the welterweight championship and did an excellent job of defending the title twice. He was also the best boxer in 2014 and 2015. Not to mention Vitor Belfort. Brazilian jiu-jitsu fighter Vitor Belfort is 6 feet feet tall and weighs 185 pounds. He's had a great career in combat sports. He's also competed in many different divisions and is a well-known name to anyone involved in or who likes combat sports. His claim to fame was his explosive power, which he showed off by knocking people out with devastating blows. He's been knocked out 14 times, tied for the third most in UFC history. At 19 years old, Vitor Belfort is the youngest person to win a UFC tournament. It was just a taste of what would come later in his long and prosperous life. The former UFC champion doesn't think he'll return to the MMA and instead wants to finish his fighting career in professional boxing. Even though MMA is close to Belfort's heart, he has little interest in getting back into it for several reasons. Since he's much older now, he thinks it's good for aging fighters to be able to work with commissions on rules for a fight in boxing. But of course, that's not possible in MMA. He also thinks the sport's less hard on the body than MMA. Let's learn more about Chase Hooper. Chase Hooper is a featherweight fighter from Washington who is 6 feet 1 inches tall and weighs 145 pounds. He was only 19 when he started his amateur MMA career while still in Enumclaw High School with a 5-0 record. In 2017, he played his first professional game against Edson Pinato and showed that he was far better than anyone his age. Chase the Dream Hooper decided to win the fight early, crushing our hopes for a bloody brawl. He used his elite black belt jiu-jitsu skills to end the fight by submission in the first round. Hooper's had 13 mixed martial arts fights in his short but exciting career. In his 4 UFC fights, he's won 2 and lost 2. You can expect that when you step into the ring with fully grown adults. He had a long and successful career, even though he was still growing up. Next, Dan Lauzon. Lauzon used to be a martial artist. He's fought in the lightweight division of the World Series of Fighting, Affliction, and the UFC. His older brother, Joe Lauzon, was also a mixed martial artist, so it was in his blood. The 6-foot-tall, 155-pound lightweight was good at boxing, BJJ, and wrestling. His well-rounded fight training has paid off in spades, and he's won 17 of the 23 fights he's participated in. After leaving the UFC, Lauzon won 8 fights from 2007 to 2009. After that, he was asked to return to the Premier Fighting Company, but he was kicked out after losing to Cole Miller and Efrain Escudero back-to-back. Last but not least, Tito Ortiz. Tito Ortiz's first MMA fight was at UFC 13. He was 22 years old at the time. As a replacement, he lost to Guy Mezger in the final of the light heavyweight tournament. After only 3 fights, the Huntington Beach bad boy got a chance to fight another young UFC champion named Frank Shamrock. He defeated Mezger, who'd beaten him in his first fight. Ortiz was knocked out in the 4th round of that fight. He would have been the 4th youngest UFC champion if he'd won. After that win, Shamrock would retire, and Wanderlei Silva would fight to see who'd be the new light heavyweight champion. After beating Silva in a decision, Ortiz was the brash king of the 205-pound class and led the UFC through some hard times. Finally, Jens Pulver. Pulver's first fight in the MMA was when he was 23 years old. Within 2 years, he had 12 fights under his belt, and he was set to face Cole Uno in a fight to decide the first UFC lightweight champion. Lil Evil won the lightweight title by beating Uno in a majority decision. He then defended his belt against Dennis Hallman and BJ Penn before giving it up because of a contract dispute. That wasn't the best move for his legacy in the long run. Still, Pulver can never lose the fact that he was the first person to hold the UFC lightweight title. And on that note, that's a wrap for this video. Which of these fighters was the most impressive despite their young age? Is there anyone we missed out on? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. See you in the next one.